John Newton, 1725 to 1807. "The ship is foundering!" At the dreaded cry, horror filled 23-year-old John Newton's heart. "We're all lost!" It was March 10th, 1748. John awoke in the night to the plunging and lurching of the Greyhound, caught in a violent storm. The trading vessel had been too long at sea and was badly in need of dry dock and repairs. Water began filling the hold beneath John's pitching hammock. "We're all lost!" Others took up the cry. John heard his own terrified voice among the rest. What he feared most had come upon him. Sea Captain's Son. Born in 1725, John Newton enjoyed the loving nurture of a godly mother, while seeing little of his sea captain father. From his earliest days, his mother taught him scripture verses and the poems and hymns of Isaac Watts, and she often told him he would grow up to preach the gospel. When John was 7, however, she died. His father soon remarried and placed John in a boarding school where he spent several miserable years making friends with boys who taught him to swear and cheat. Finally, 11-year-old John convinced his father to take him on a voyage as a cabin boy, a course of life that proved most hurtful to John. He quickly learned the crude, sinful ways of seamen and forgot all his dear mother had taught him. For several years, his father endured John's unruly ways. At last, his father, weary of his incorrigible son, found John a berth on another ship. Given several days' leave before sailing, John left to visit friends of his mother in Kent. There he met Mary Catlett and fell deeply in love. He deliberately overstayed his leave, returning 3 weeks after the ship had sailed. His father was furious when he heard the news. It would not be the last time John failed to return to his ship on schedule, and his father nearly disowned him the next time it happened. At 18, John was conscripted into the Navy on a British man-of-war, HMS Harwich, and was eventually made a midshipman, a junior officer in training to command a ship one day. He squandered this new beginning by rebelling against the authority of his captain and, while on leave again, overstayed a visit to Mary's family. Later, sent ashore at Plymouth on a mission to round up deserters, John took to his own heels and deserted. The British Navy was relentless in punishing deserters. John was captured and flogged, and the captain had him thrown below in irons. In utter disgrace, he was demoted to common seaman. Brooding at sea, he watched the swirling waves and considered throwing himself overboard. He couldn't swim and would have surely drowned. His bitterness grew so great he even plotted to kill the captain. Then, one day, the Harwich stopped in mid-ocean, availing itself of an opportunity to get rid of undesirable men by transferring them to an African trading vessel. Few doubted who would be chosen. John found himself discharged from the Navy in the midst of the sea and left to his fate as a disgraced and unwanted sailor on a trading ship. John immediately fell in with coarse and foul men and soon made himself hated by yet another captain. Somehow, in the midst of his loose living, he enjoyed writing poetry, but not ennobling poetry. He wrote a vulgar song mocking the captain and sinned with a high hand, as he referred to it, by teaching the rebellious lyric to the entire ship's company. A slave in Africa. Having run afoul of another captain, John decided to jump ship and remain in Africa to make his fortune. Promised a partnership in the rounding up of black slaves, he entered the service of a white slave trader living on a small island off the west coast of Africa. There, he offended the slave trader's African wife, who began mocking and abusing him. He became ill and might have starved to death under the cruelty of his master's wife if it were not for the pity of the African slaves.